We are going to have to act if we want to live in a different world.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Classic Gaming Brothers. I'm Zach.
And I'm Seth.
And we are the Classic Gaming Brothers.
We are.
Yeah.
It's another episode of Classic Gaming Brothers.
Another episode.
Super exciting.
Another day, another dollar.
Episode 34.
Episode 34.
Yeah, would have been 35 if you didn't lose another episode.
No one needed to know that.
Now everybody
now everybody knows. Everybody knows.
It was going to be a really exciting episode. We're not going to talk about the topic, though, because maybe we'll talk about it later. Maybe it was a lame episode and the show just died.
I just remembered what the topic was. I was going to say I forgot, but I do remember now. So Seth, tell me, what have you been playing recently?
So recently I've actually been playing this game called Death and Taxes, which sounds riveting, I know. It came out in February of 2020, so feels like yesterday, but really it was 5 months ago. And it was created by a company called Placeholder Gameworks. This is their first game. They're the developer and publisher, so it's a self-published title. It's a really enjoyable game. So you play as the Grim Reaper, and you're a bureaucrat, and you go to the office, and you shuffle through paperwork, and you decide who lives and who dies every day. And it's a very funny, kind of tongue-in-cheek type situation in regards to the humor.
Mm-hmm.
The gameplay style is Paper Please-esque, but it's less stressful than Paper Please, because there isn't really a time. You could kind of sort through everything on your own time, and then you can decide to progress the day. There's no like, you need to decide this right now, and you're not. And the fun part that I really liked is that every person that's presented to you is you get a picture of what they look like, and it's in like 8-bit-ish type of or maybe 16-bit type graphics, and you get the name of the person, the profession of the person, and a little bio about them. And you get to decide. You don't get any gender information, you don't get any ethnicity information, and you're given like they as the pronoun for every person, because you're supposed to treat them as a human, and they're all the same. You go through and you read, and you have to, there's quotas, and you can or can't make your quotas. Like, you don't have to kill the people or not kill the people, progress the game. I guess you have to do the quotas. I don't know. I'm playing through as kind of like a straight man right now, where I'm just doing everything I guess, like, I'm just doing what the quotas tell me to do. So, and I'm just like super serious, and that's kind of like how you could be silly in the game if you want. And every time you kill or let somebody live, you get a Twitter feed the following day about that person happening or not happening. And you can kill other people if you like kill like an airline pilot. So like, you'll show like an airline pilot comes up, and if you kill them, then they may crash the airline and other people will die. And the thing that I thought was funny is that your boss is fate, and there's other departments of Reapers.
Okay.
So there's a Reaper department for like animals and plants and children and stuff like that. So there's all these different departments that help like figure out, like, sort through everything for the afterlife. So I thought it was funny, and sometimes you have to pinch hit for other departments. So
that's fun.
Yeah. And so it's an enjoyable game. I think I picked it up for $8. I want to say $9 on Steam. It's got an MSRP for $12.99 when it comes off sale. Really, I recommend it, especially if you liked Paper Please. I would recommend this game.
Yeah, I love Papers, Please.
100%.
Paper Please.
Yeah, 100% recommend this game. following the rules can lead to some funny things, and you generally get to decide like who you're like weighing the pros and cons between some people and whether or not you want to kill certain people for quotas and stuff like that. It's just a great bureaucratic simulator. So what have you been most recently been playing?
Well, I've been playing a game that we briefly talked about in our horror game episode. It is Silent Hill. Came out in 1999 by Konami for the PlayStation 1. I've been playing it
It's a pretty old game.
Yeah, I've been playing it on my PlayStation 3. When I bought my PlayStation 3, I think I told the story. When I bought my PlayStation 3 at a Goodwill, it had a bunch of games already installed on it. So I deleted the games that I did not care for ever playing in my life, and I kept the games that I did want to play. And one of those games was Silent Hill. And I've been really enjoying it. For those who may not have listened to our episode or don't know what Silent Hill is, you play as a man named Harry Mason, who is on a car trip to the small town of Silent Hill with his daughter. As they're arriving, they get into a car accident. Harry wakes up and realizes his daughter is missing. So he goes into the foggy town, and horror shenanigans happen because the town is cursed. So it's overall a spooky horror game. It hasn't aged very well because for the PlayStation 1, the graphics were kind of blocky and not very, fluid. There is some creepy elements that I think the kind of like blocky graphics kind of help keep them still creepy. There's a couple of moments where you'll come across these like things, and then it'll switch point of view to what Harry sees and gives you a close up. And even with the blocky, graphics of the time, it's still kind of disturbing because, it's just the way it looks. But yeah, overall, a spooky game. The controls are not that great for the time. I mean, it was an early 3D game. And but there are some good jump scares, which I'm usually not really into games that give me jump scares. I like, psychological horror or supernatural horror, but there's a couple moments that did actually get me. Also, I really like the fact that a lot of the dialogue is really bad because of the really bad job they did with the voiceover work. For example, there is a character named Sybil who you meet, and she's a police officer for a neighboring town, and she firmly believes that all the bizarre things that are happening in the town of Silent Hill are the result of drugs that are coming in from tourists. Some of the bizarre things that are happening include flying monsters and rabid dogs and
definitely drugs.
Yeah, it's drugs. So and like it's not like an offhanded moment where she mentions it. There's like a solid 2-minute dialogue of her just telling you, it's definitely drugs, Harry. They're coming in from out of town. They come in through the tourists who arrive out of town, and they give them to the people here, and it's it just keeps going. But it's, so far, I'm mostly through the game. I think I have about an hour or so left, maybe a little more than that, maybe 2 hours left. So, yeah. It's been fun.
That's great, and it's a good classic game.
It is a good classic game. I'm trying to work through the series. So after I finish Silent Hill 1, I'm gonna jump into Silent Hill 2.
Oh. Then your recently played will be just a series of Silent Hill games.
Potentially, yeah.
Oh, it's kind of like how I'm trying to get through the Broken Sword saga.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm still working on that. So this episode we were gonna kind of do a split conversation. So recently, Command & Conquer was remastered, and Command & Conquer is a great game. We also wanted to talk about the company that made that, and that's Westwood Studios. We wanted to talk about the Command & Conquer development. We also wanted to kind of talk about Westwood Studios and kind of talk about a little bit of both. We may, in a future episode, go further on Westwood's history or further on Command & Conquer, but this episode's going to be a little bit of a hybrid episode. Though, let's talk with memories in regards to Westwood games. Zach, do you have any memories of any of the Westwood games? So Westwood made, of course, Command & Conquer. And they also made Dune 2 prior to that, and that's Dune, D-U-N-E, 2, prior to Command & Conquer, which was based on the Frank Hubert. Frank Herbert series of novels. So do you have any memories about those games? Or
yeah, so I didn't grow up playing Command & Conquer and Dune 2 because we were a Warcraft and StarCraft household, so we played Warcraft and StarCraft. That being said, though, I did eventually play Command & Conquer and Dune 2. I played them when I was in college and in high school, mostly in college. In college, I picked up a copy of Dune Battle for Arrakis, which is the Sega Genesis port of Dune 2, which is kind of a bizarre thing to exist because it's a real-time strategy game for the Sega Genesis. But in any case, it's a fun game. I also played, when I was younger, I did play some Westwood games that I am only now finding out were Westwood games. That's a tongue twister.
Yes.
And that is The Lion King for the Sega Genesis, which is a game
That's a tough game.
very tough game. I don't think I ever got past the, I just can't wait to be king segment, which is probably the hardest level in a video game ever made. Ever.
It's rough.
It's rough. You think Super Meat Boy is hard. Play Lion King for the Sega Genesis, buddy.
Whew.
But that is a Westwood game. It was licensed by Virgin Games, which we'll mention a little later, some of their history with Westwood. But that was a Westwood game I played when I was younger. So those are my memories. Not as vivid, I think, as Seth's. I think Seth had more of a time playing Command and Conquer. But Seth, what about you?
Yeah, so as Zach said, we were a Warcraft household, so we didn't have a lot of other RTSs, but when I was a kid, one of the first RTSs that I was introduced to was Command & Conquer, Tiberian Suns, the original game, and I really fell in love with this game. With the unit movement, it was the first time I was introduced to any of the RTS elements, and as I grew up, I ended up being a pretty solid. I play RTSs. It's one of my genres that I really enjoy.
Yeah,
it's the same type of itch that I guess that I get when I play like a strategy management type game. I kind of like that type of control type game. But so Command & Conquer was one of the first RTS games that I saw. I did also see and play Dune 2. My memories of Dune 2 were that there were sandworms in it.
there are.
And that they would occasionally, while you were moving units across the map, erupt and kill everybody.
Yeah.
And it was great.
That sounds like Dune.
And there may have been other Dune RTS games going forward.
Well, there was the port of Dune 2 for the Sega Genesis, and then there was another port to the PlayStation. And then there was, I think, another RTS under the Dune license. But I know Dune 1 wasn't an RTS.
No, Dune 1 was not an RTS, and we'll get into that. But I definitely played a Dune RTS game that had sandworms.
It was most likely Dune 2, I'm assuming.
It was probably Dune 2. I was too young to identify what the game was, but I was not young enough to identify that there were giant space worms in that.
You're at that age where you didn't know what game it was, but you definitely knew the lore of Dune.
Yeah, I definitely knew the War of Doom. Fun story. I would go over slumber parties as a child, as you do, and in middle school, probably around, I'm going to say 6th or 7th grade. So that puts you at like, what, 12 or 13 years old? Let's say 12. I was slept over my buddy's house with some other friends. And his dad came down and said, you can watch one videotape. Because it was, VHSs. You can watch one videotape, one movie on one videotape. And he specified one videotape because they own Titanic as well, which was two VHSs.
Yeah.
And he didn't want us to do that. So we said, okay, we will watch one movie, then we will go to bed. That movie that we chose was Dune. Which is a very long movie. I believe it's a 4-hour runtime.
Yeah.
And is on one VHS tape. It is a thick VHS tape. And he was mad. His dad was mad. His dad came down probably an hour or two into the movie and was like, "What are you guys watching?" And we're like, "We're watching Dune." And he's like, "No, turn that off." And we were forced to go to bed. Middle of I think they were like in the town square or something. I'm not sure where we were in the movie. Someone was getting killed. But his dad was not he was not happy that we chose Dune as the movie. So that that's just some
That's just
personal
a fun
tidbit of
story.
me.
Yeah.
Some fun story of connection to Dune. So, Zach, do you want to bring us into the history of Westwood Studios?
So Westwood Studios was founded in 1985 by Brett Sperry and Louis Castle, or Lewis Castle? Louis. I'm going to go with Lewis Castle. Westwood Studios was founded in 1985 by Brett Sperry and Lewis Castle. At the time, they were known as Westwood Associates, and they were named after a neighborhood of Los Angeles called Westwood. So there was a neighborhood in Los Angeles. It was known as Westwood, and Brett Sperry and Lewis Castle wanted their company to represent the kind of like professionalism but entertainment kind of side of this professional neighborhood. So initially, the company worked primarily on porting 8-bit titles by Epix and our favorite company, SSI, to 16-bit computers like the Commodore Amiga and the Atari ST. Their first original title was an RPG called Mars Saga. It came out in 1988 for the Apple II, MS-DOS, and Commodore 64. And one of their earliest successes was actually with the game Eye of the Beholder, also published by our best buddies, SSI. It was developed for SSI, and Westwood worked on a ton of games after that with companies like Infocom and major companies like Disney.
That was Eye of the Beholder was a very good game.
Yeah, it's a dungeon crawler.
Dungeon crawler that was pushed out by SSI, and it was fun finding out that Westwood worked on that. And in 92, they were acquired by Virgin Games, which was a division of Virgin Group, which is a very large British conglomerate. As we've spoken in our 2 episodes ago, Britain and the UK has a huge influence on gaming, and this is just another aspect of that. The conglomerate is the same Virgin Group that also has Virgin Airlines and all of those multitudes of companies underneath them. And Virgin Games became the publisher for Westwood Studios and eventually became Virgin Interactive Entertainment. And they worked with Westwood in releasing an RTS called Dune. But they also were working with another company at the same time or similar time frame, a company called Cryo, who was also working on a game called Dune.
Uh-oh.
So, from our understanding of our extensive research into this,
Wikipedia.
Virgin Interactive Entertainment went to Westwood and said, hey, you guys can make a game called Dune, but there is a company called Cryo who's making a game called Dune, but we're probably going to cancel that game. So you go ahead and make your game called Dune, and it can be an RTS game, and it's going to be great. Cryo's working on some adventure game, and that's fine. We're going to cancel it. So the time came, and Cryo released their game. And
not canceling it.
They did not cancel it, and they called their game Dune. So Westwood, in order not to confuse the audience by having 2 games called Dune, decided to call their game Dune 2. And
wow.
So they have a game called Dune 2. It goes to when it was ported, it was called Dune: The Battle of Arrakis, and the original game was released Dune 2: The Building of a Dynasty. And for the European release and for the Mega Drive Genesis port, it was changed to Battle. Actually, for the European release, it was Dune 2: Battle for Arrakis, and for its Mega Drive Genesis port, they dropped the 2 and it just became Dune: The Battle for Arrakis. I guess it's not that confusing since you're not playing that random adventure game on the Mega Drive.
Yeah, I think it would have been way more confusing if you were going to the store and saw a copy of Dune 2 for the Sega Genesis and you're like, well, I can't buy that because I don't have Dune 1. But
yeah, that's true.
How confusing was it for all the fans of Dune the Adventure game, though, to like find out, oh, awesome. They go to the store maybe a few weeks after they love this game, and they go to the store and they're like, there's a sequel out already? And they pop it in, they're like, what the heck is this? This is a different game.
I think it's almost like it would be almost like if I went to the store or did the reverse, bought the sequel and then went to go get the prequel, and it was an entirely different game.
Yeah.
So like I did that with Baldur's Gate. I bought Baldur's Gate 2 for the PC first,
Okay.
I was a kid. It was available on the shelf. I didn't really care about playing games in order at that time. And so I got Baldur's Gate 2. I loved it and went out and then bought Baldur's Gate 1. And it was this, very similar game, not as refined as Baldur's Gate 2, and we'll do a Baldur's Gate episode one day in the future. But
imagine if you went out and got Baldur's Gate Dark Alliance though for the PlayStation 2.
That's what it would feel like if you went out to buy Dune 2 and then you went back and you're like, oh, I guess I better get this Dune 1 game. Maybe it's more RTS. And instead it's not.
Yeah, it's a point-and-click adventure starring Kyle MacLachlan.
It is an interesting game. I unfortunately, as much of an adventure gamer that I am, I have not had the chance to play that game.
Maybe that will change.
And that very well might change. And since this is kind of a hybrid episode, we won't go too much further into our Dune conversation because we do want to touch base onto Command and Conquer, but we will probably come back to Dune and talk about the Dune games because I believe there's actually a Dune game in the pipeline or something.
I wouldn't be surprised because there's a movie in the pipeline.
Right. So Dune will come back, but there's a list of adventure games that I want to play that include Dune and Batman Returns.
Oh yeah.
Both of them are adventure games that I plan on playing at some time in the future. And when I do, I'll tell everybody about my experience, and maybe we'll make some episodes about them, talking about some adventure games that you probably have not heard about. So during the time when Dune 2 was going on, Westwood Studios started thinking about the future and about a different intellectual property that wouldn't be as confusing as Dune. And they started thinking about Command & Conquer. And do you want to kind of give a background on Command & Conquer?
So Command & Conquer is set in an alternative timeline, and it focuses on two world powers, the Global Defense Initiative, which is sort of like the United Nations, and the cult-like Brotherhood of Nod, which are the bad guys. Now, unlike games like Warcraft and other RTS games that were out, I mean, even like Dune, which was, the sci-fi fantasy, Command & Conquer is set in a modern setting and had modern warfare elements, such as tanks and, units with guns and airplanes and helicopters, et cetera, so you weren't like dealing with catapults and castles or Dune things, but or sandworms. But the game did have a very comprehensive story that was accompanied by full motion video segments that would kind of play out throughout the story to give you different story cues and such like that. I know when you start the game for the first time, you get this kind of corny, it's like a television changing through different channels of like different advertisements and companies and stuff of this time in this universe. It kind of puts you into this universe because you get ads for Tiberian, which is the resource that you have to collect. Different companies that deal with processing of it. You get ads for like random exercise videos. There's like a news report about a terrorist attack committed by the Brotherhood of Nod, and then you get this intercepted message from either the GDI or the Brotherhood of Nod. You get to choose which one that you want to accept, and whichever one you choose, that leads you into the storyline for that particular game. So the game also saw one expansion pack. It was called the Covert Operations, as well as ports to the PlayStation, Nintendo 64, and the Sega Saturn. So it was widely successful and widely popular. And in 1996, there was a prequel that came out called Red Alert, which also spawned its own line of sequels, and that I referenced actually in our last episode with Tim Curry was in one of them, and he goes, space! And the story then in Red Alert is shifted to another alternate history. It's the same universe, but it's in the past, where it's a more aggressive Soviet Union at war with Europe. And Europe, you either play as the European Allied Forces or as the Soviet Union in your quest for global domination.
Red Alert was definitely more realistic. That kind of, it was interesting that Red Alert kind of spawned its own like line of games
which
that just
well,
are still getting released.
and especially realistic because 96 was like right at the tail end of the Cold War. The people that were playing these games lived in the Cold War, so you know it was a very real fear that the Soviets would go to war with the rest of the world. So I think they kind of tapped into the right time period for the audience.
Which kind of goes back to when we talked about Jungle Strike for the Sega Genesis.
Yes.
Being shortly released about after the Gulf War.
Yes.
And being about the Gulf War.
Yeah, exactly.
I think Red Alert was a little bit... I don't think it was as controversial as Jungle Strike.
No.
Since it was about Soviets instead of the Gulf War. The Command & Conquer 99, Command & Conquer did get a sequel called Tiberian Sun, which I believe the remastered packages it with it, which takes place after the first Command & Conquer, and Tiberian Sun saw more battles between GDI and the Brotherhood of Nod over Tiberium. And is Khan in...
Kane?
Khan.
Yeah,
No,
I think Kane is in the games up until the third one, I think, because I think there's a DLC or expansion pack to the third game just called like Kane's Wrath.
Yeah. Kane is the big bad for the Brotherhood.
It's like a bald guy with a mustache, right?
Yeah, he's like Cobra Commander. Except for Nod. Nod is actually just kind of like the Cobras from...
it's just the G.I. Joe game. Let's be real here.
And there is a guy that says like "Go Joe." Like part of the song sounds like it's saying "Go Joe." It is really. Okay. If you like G.I. Joe, I recommend playing Command & Conquer. Command & Conquer did see a number of sequels post the original game, including Command & Conquer 3, Tiberian Wars, Command & Conquer 4, Tiberian Twilight, and a MMORTS, a massive multiplayer online RTS game called Tiberian Alliances. They came out in 07, 2010, and 2012. There was also a game called Command & Conquer Renegade, which came out in 2002, which changed it from an RTS to a first-person, third-person type shooter game, which was well-received, unlike other games of that type when they try have done that switch.
Some games just can't make the switch.
Some games can't make the switch. We'll actually talk about that a little bit. The Bureau. In 98, Westwood was purchased by EA Games and was shut down in 2003 because EA is evil. Some members of the Westwood staff stayed with EA as part of the new formed the Los Angeles division, and while other members left and started Petroglyph Games, where in 2020 released Command & Conquer Remastered Collection. Petroglyph, the developer.
The big old circle. It all comes back.
And fortunately, they apparently get along well, right? If EA is willing to publish them.
I mean, I assume so. There might have been, who knows? I mean, there might have been bad blood initially, but I assume when EA was looking for people to remaster Command & Conquer, Petroglyph was like, hey, we're right here. You know?
Yeah, that's true. And I think that time heals all wounds, and also they probably were given some decent departure package if they were closed like that.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times I feel like a lot of time, and I don't want to speak for the people of Petroglyph, but a lot of times with situations like that where people do leave companies and end up forming their own companies, usually they depart with a kind of a mutual understanding. I mean, I assume by the time Westwood was shut down in 2003, it probably wasn't the same Westwood it was back when it started out. You know, it was probably a very different little community. So I assume, I mean, I can't speak for the people at Petroglyph, but I assume there wasn't any like resentment toward their fellow staff who stayed behind, or or anyone that did anything. And
they actually they did release Command & Conquer games while being owned by EA, and since it's 98 to 2003, you have 5 years of development there, and so with that, the first sequel to Command & Conquer called Tiberian Sun was released under EA's ownership versus being under Virgin Interactive Entertainment. which is actually something I really liked about the Command & Conquer Remaster, is they have the original Electronics Arts logo
Oh yeah.
in the game startup, which is cool. The remaster does a fabulous job at remastering the game. It's very true. I talked about it last episode in regards to my recent experiences of playing it. We actually, Zach and I, played it online together,
Yeah.
and we had a fun time.
We did.
The answer to all problems is the Colossus thing,
Obelisk?
the hook, the obelisk. If you're playing as Nod, make as many obelisks as you can, and then be prepared for your speakers to make weird buzzing noises.
Oh yeah.
But Zach and I had an interesting time playing where we almost lost to two medium computers.
Yes. Yeah.
And
Those medium
but we
computers
ended
are
up-
tough.
They were also very mean in the
We
beginning.
did pull off the greatest heist of all time, though.
We did pull off the greatest heist of all time, where I invaded with flame tanks and Zachary stole one of their MCVs, which is the unit that is a vehicle and also your main base.
Yeah.
It was cool, and it felt like I was playing the game back when it came out, except with better graphics.
Yeah. And a cool thing about the remaster, I picked up a copy of the remaster actually right after we recorded our last episode. And one of the coolest things, at least for me, who, I love classic games. I love the way classic games look. But when you're playing the game, you can actually toggle between the new remastered graphics and the original very blocky graphics with just a hit of the spacebar. You tap the spacebar and the game shifts back into the old style graphics, and it's a smooth transition. You can't, it's instant. There's no, you don't have to wait for it to, load up or anything. And I think that's nice. I like that. I like when games do that, when games allow you to, toggle back and forth between a new view and an old view, because it gives you kind of a appreciation for the old view and seeing how it's changed.
And the appreciation for the work that went into the game. And instead of forcing you to play a game that's not really remastered.
Right. And then you can find out what that weird, mysterious object was. It was a helicopter this whole time.
That's true. And what Zachary's referencing too is that there is a piece of pixel that people when they playing the original Command and Conquer thought was some sort of crashed alien, but people couldn't identify it based on the graphics quality. So when the HD master came through, or the remaster came through, it was identified as a helicopter. And Command & Conquer, if anything, stays true to its roots, its modern roots. It doesn't get weird, I feel. I haven't played every single Command & Conquer, but from what I've played of the original, it doesn't, beyond having Tiberium, it doesn't get weird at all. It doesn't all of a sudden introduce aliens or weird stuff outside of that. You're just generally fighting Nod.
I think the weirdest thing is that, it is an alternative timeline, so there's stuff that happens in the Command & Conquer universe that wouldn't happen in our universe, and they do have things that we don't have, like obelisks, which shoot lasers and make loud noises. The other thing is that it can get goofy, where I described the acting in one of the games to be a little hammy, which that's just kind of the nature of the game. It can be hammy. It doesn't take itself always super serious.
Right. And there was also other Command & Conquer games that came out. There was about 24 in total Command & Conquer games that have been released so far. But Zach and I are just not going to just say Command & Conquer 400 times to over and over
unless
again.
You want us to.
But there were,
in which case, write in and tell us you want the Command & Conquer audiobook of us just listing games.
Yes. Generals was the Command & Conquer game. That actually, I remember when Generals came out, and it was really cool. So I think that's going to be it for our Westwood Command & Conquer hybrid episode.
Yeah.
A little Westwood history, a little Command & Conquer history. We'll probably do something where we go a little bit further in the Dune. We may go a little bit further in Command & Conquer. But we also wanted to use this episode to talk about a new segment at the end of our podcast.
Yeah.
So we have been doing our Byweight Pass segment, which I don't know, I like. I like our Byweight Pass segment.
Yeah.
I hope you do too. Though we felt that we wanted to freshen up the podcast a little bit and add in a new segment. So this segment, we're going to try it out, see how you guys like it. And we'll probably go back and forth between Buy, Wait, Pass and this new segment. And so each episode can have a little bit more uniqueness to it. And this segment's going to be called, Is It Really That Bad? So what this segment entails is that we're going to talk about a game that we own that may be an older game, it may be a newer game. But it is definitely a poorly received game. So this game will either have mixed or worse reviews on Steam, or it will have a 66 and below on Metacritic. Either or it may just be a game that people or Zach and I just think it generally is bad. But we wanted to have some sort of standard so you guys know that we're not just picking on games. We also want to use kind of like a scientific method in order to show that we are big proponents of games, and we don't want to pick on any small, we don't want to use our voice to belittle or knock any games for being games. We think we are strong supporters of game developers, especially indie game developers. So we will be very careful in regards to the games that we pick for this segment. And they may also be bad games that Zach and I actually like.
Yeah.
So
like my first one.
So they may be so this will be more of a little descriptive segment where we talk a little bit about the game that we have been playing, what irritates us in regards to, or why it's considered bad generally, and then whether or not we really think it's really that bad, or if it is really that bad and you should avoid playing it. So, Zach, why don't you take it away with your Is It Really That Bad?
So my Is It Really That Bad actually is, I'm kind of cheating. I'm doing 2 games just because I feel like they're very close in terms of their content. But recently I've been thinking due to some recent discourse involving the writer J.K. Rowling. I was on Twitter when a lot of stuff went down and a lot of discourse evolved, and I'm this is not the time or place to talk about that. But got me thinking about my childhood and growing up with the franchise Harry Potter and my time and memories.
Harry Potter,
and my time and memories with Harry Potter, and I'm gonna say it with like a weird accent now every time.
Harry Potter,
and I primarily remember playing the Harry Potter PC games. And there's 2 of them that I played when I was growing up. Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, or Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, if you live in America like I do, which came out in 2001, and Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, which came out in 2002. And these games were an almost like kind of open world game. You explored Hogwarts, so it was as open world as Hogwarts could be. And even that was pretty restrictive. It was like 2 hallways and a classroom. And then there was also a 3rd game that came out called Prisoner of Azkaban, but I played that a lot later in life when I realized it existed. So I'm only going to really talk about Sorcerer's Stone and Chamber of Secrets. These games were developed by a company called No Wonder Games, who apparently only work with IP tie-ins. I looked up their company, and they have only made games that are connected to movies or TV shows. And that's it.
And are they all bad?
That's how you know they're doing real good. So the Harry Potter games, as a kid, they were really fun, and I will preface it at that. Revisiting them, they have not aged well at all. They have tons of graphical glitches. Weird things will happen. Like sometimes the textures just won't render properly. So Harry's like glasses will turn into like a visor, like he's Geordie LaForge, or sometimes his skin won't render and he'll be like mostly invisible. There's some odd control schemes. The game wasn't designed really for like a WASD, a WASD on the keyboard type of modern control scheme. I think it uses the arrow keys and like the mouse, so it's kind of like a weird twisting of your body.
Was it a port to the PC though? Was it originally come out on the PlayStation?
No, the PC version is separate from the PlayStation version. The PlayStation version was developed by a different company, and the Game Boy version was developed by a different company, and the Game Boy Color version was developed by a different... There's a rabbit hole of Harry Potter games. That's a whole other topic for another day. But in any sense, the games also... Both games are very... they're kind of fundamentally flawed by having redundant gameplay and puzzle mechanics. Most of the first chunk of the game involves you going to classes as Harry, learning spells, doing these like tests with the spells, which doesn't make sense because the teacher's like, Harry, go do this test for like 20 minutes while I just sit here with the rest of the kids and they don't do the test. But Harry's special. He gets treated differently. And then those puzzles are eventually reused at the end of the game during like the final segment. So it's like, oh, you're just getting taught to do the thing that you're going to do at the very end of the game. So it's very redundant. Again, they are fun to play as a kid, and they offer what was the first open world view of Hogwarts that I had ever seen, and still really the only open world view of Hogwarts that is out there. They also are kind of cool in the sense that the artwork was more in line with the official artwork that was coming out at the time, and not really the books, or not really the movies rather. So the artwork was more in line.
Like Snape had like a beard and stuff.
Yeah. The artwork was more in line with the official
chapter,
like the chapter art. Yeah. In the marketing art that was out at the time. So one thing, for example, that I always thought was cool was in the games, all of the different houses had coloring on their robes to indicate which house they were in, which wasn't in the movie until the third movie came out, which was way after the games came out. So the games did it first. Also, the character of Peeves, the poltergeist, who was cut out of the movie, is in the games, and there are certain plot elements that happen in the games that only happen in the books.
He's really annoying. Peeves is
really
really
annoying in those games.
Like in the game, and he's really annoying. In the book, he's also kind of annoying, but like his character is supposed to be annoying. But I think they pull that off in the game.
Yeah, and later games,
from what I remember, from
my understanding, began to become closer to the movies as they were coming out in time with the movies. But the first two games kind of are anomalies in that they're kind of this pre Harry Potter movie world. And yeah, is it really that bad? They're bad. They're bad games, but they're also so bad they're good. I love playing them. I'll pop into them every now and then just to re-explore the world of Hogwarts. One of my favorite things to do is to just find ways to break the game more and more. Such as if you try talking to certain people, but you're standing on the wrong level of like the geometry, sometimes Harry will just like fling across the screen at full speed. Like there's no reason for it. It just happens. There's also a program tool that you can download that will definitely break the game, because you could swap Harry's body for other figures in the game, so you can just run around Hogwarts as Aragog if you feel like it. I mean, the spider, yeah. Or you can play as Hagrid but mapped to Aragog's body, so it's like Hagrid is this spindly monster. It's a very great game. It's one of those games I could play hours, but it's so bad it's good. Yeah, that's my Is It Really That Bad? It's bad, but it's so bad it's good. So
for my Is It Really That Bad, I'm going to talk about a game that is or should be close to my heart, since it's a game off my favorite franchise. And if you know me, then you are probably already guessing that I'm going to be talking about The Bureau, XCOM Declassified. This game actually came out in 2013, and I was really excited about it back in that time until a lot of the negative things about the game came out. And I actually didn't pick the game up, and didn't pick up the game till later. And I do own the game. And I was talking to Zach about it, and I was like, I give a lot of lip to The Bureau, and I understand that it's just known to be a mixed reviewed and very critical game. And I'm like, but I don't think I've really played it. And I looked, and I played 13 minutes. I got 13 minutes into the game, and I decided that it was not for me. So I was like, you know what? For the podcast, I'm going to go back and I'm going to try. So now I have 2 hours into the game. So I feel like I have some level of experience with the game that I can explain to you why I don't like it. And why it's critically reviewed. So it was very rife with public development issues. Originally, the game was announced, I believe, in 2006 or 7. It was in the 2000s. It was announced at early E3. It was actually, from my understanding, going to precede the Firaxis game, and they were going to actually call that game the Bureau. They were going to call it XCOM Enemy Unknown, to play on the UFO Enemy Unknown that was released originally. The title XCOM Enemy Unknown did go to the Firaxis game that came out. That was a critical success. So originally the game was going to be a collaboration between 2K Australia and 2K Marin, which is based in California. Though apparently it's very difficult to work as a company between Australia and California because eventually the collaboration between them just ended up not working, and 2K Marin ended up taking over the project. Australia's game, if Australia had their way and they developed the game completely, it would have been a first-person strategy game where you had first-person elements instead of going into a squad base when you were fighting aliens, and you would have base strategy game for the other part of the gameplay. So the gameplay would be split. Kind of like how XCOM split between strategy and squad-based shooting. It would have been like a multiple units squad-based stuff. This would have been first-person and strategy-based. Marin turned it into a third-person tactical game with no strategy elements whatsoever, and it's not first-person. It's a third-person view that has a squad companions. You have 2 people that follow you around. So I'm going to talk about the pros of the game, and then I'm going to talk about my cons, and then I'll give my is it really that bad. The setting is set in the 1950s, very X-Files. It's before XCOM becomes in existence. It's humans' first contact with the aliens. It's cool. Like, you have this, shadowy government agency that's tapping all these people from other government agencies and bringing them into this one agency, and they're all the best of the best. Or, actually, I was reading through, some of them aren't the best. They were just tapped to go join this program. But you have people from the CIA and the NSA and all those other acronyms that come in, and they all work for this company, this agency called the Bureau. And they become XCOM during the first hour of the game. They're like, we're the Bureau, and we're now called XCOM, and we're here to fight aliens with 1950s technology. It's a great premise. I'm stoked. The graphics are okay. They are pretty standard 2013 third-person action game.
Yeah. They were good for the
There's
time.
Yeah, they're good for the time. They're not really holding up, and the story is not that good that kind of makes up for it. So those are the pros. So the cons, the fighting it just feels blocky. Not only just the fighting, but the moving. The moving is really so left shift is your run key. It's also the get into cover key. It's also the jump over cover key. It's also and then you have all these different non-traditional type movement keys, and the combat just feels stiff. The things that you can interact with are brightly lit. So you'll be walking and there'll be a gun and it'll just be flashing yellow. Or the doorknobs to get to the next location for the right door to go through are flashing yellow. There's no reason for this type of wayfinding. Even in a game released in 2013, there's no reason for it, especially with the levels. They were constructed in a very linear fashion that you could figure out where to go next. You don't need to have this lighted path, and you could push F5 on the keyboard and it makes this gigantic arrow show you where your objective is. And mind you, I guess the levels are so drab that I have to use that to figure out where I'm going, but like I said, it's a little over the top. One of the things that really bugged me was that you have 3 health bars. You get shot in the beginning of the game, spoiler alert, and your character is injured, but he has 3 health bars. That is full health in the beginning of the game. And as you level up, you get more health bars. I didn't know that, so I thought I was injured because my character was acting injured and was also just shot. So I was looking for medical packages somewhere because I had 3 health bars, I was just shot, and my character was limping. All of these things together would explain to you that your character is injured. He was full health. I went to different medical cabinets to try and open them, and they were all just part of the background. They were not any interactable things, so you couldn't interact with the medical cabinets. So there was medical cabinets strategically placed around the map where you would think that you could heal, and you could not do anything with them, and it was very frustrating. You had a magical heal power, though, that you could cast as your 1950s CIA agent.
Maybe he's Harry Potter.
And heal your squad, and you could heal your... Yeah, you're just Harry Potter. You could just heal your compatriots when they're injured, but yeah, because that makes sense. But anyway, you have 2 NPCs that join your group, and you can swap them out with different companions as they were. Controlling them is rough. They need to be spoon-fed commands. They don't take care of themselves very well. They'll die if you don't keep giving them issuing them orders, which I guess is part of the fun of the game. But the issuing of orders is a tough keyboard. Like, you have to push space, and then you have to tab over to the right thing that you want to do, and then you have to drag it out to do it, and it doesn't pause the game. The game continues to go on. So you're getting shot by aliens trying to give an order to your guy, which in games I would feel like you should be able to pause and issue orders, but no. Real live giving orders. Apparently, I got this a little bit. I have not played. So the game's about 15 hours, so I'm like 2 hours in. So I'm still in the beginning, so I have yet to experience this, but apparently the companions are all very boring, and that they're all kind of flat. Which, this is 2013. You have had 3 Mass Effect games come out where it has the same exact style of gameplay, where you're one person, it's a cover shooter, and you have 2 companions following you, and you're giving orders to the companion. Same exact game. This game is not Mass Effect in regards to the level of care that you actually care about your companion. And then my final gripe with the game is that the characters' mouths are weird when they talk. So their lips move weird. It's like off-putting, especially during like a cinematic. You can't stop but look at their weird mouths.
Didn't Mass Effect Andromeda have that like exact same problem?
No, Mass Effect Andromeda, their entire face was weird.
Yeah, okay.
Which also was off-putting, and that may be going on my "is it really that bad" of a game. So is this game, is it really that bad? I think it is. I think that the Bureau, if you really love XCOM, like really love XCOM, then I think you owe it to yourself to play the Bureau. Definitely buy it when it is on sale. Do not pay full retail for the game. If you like action games or squad-based shooters, there are better games to play. So yeah. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that new segment. Is it really that bad? And we'll probably talk about a few more games under this segment to see how it goes, and then we'll probably go back to our buy wait pass segment in the future as well.
Yeah, who knows?
But it'll give us a chance to kind of rotate it. So that's it. So that's our episode. That's our Westwood Command & Conquer episode. That's it. Zach, do you want to take us away in regards to how they can contact us, support us, and listen to us?
I'll be giving the scoop on that. So, let's say you want to contact us, listen to us, and support us. Those are 3 great things that you can do. If you want to contact us, open up your favorite email client. Personally, I use Outlook, and go to new email. In the to field, type
I said I don't know why you use Outlook.
In the to field, you're gonna want to type Classic Gaming Brothers at classicgamingbrothers.com, or just classicgamingbrothers@gmail.com, or Zach at classicgamingbrothers.com, or Seth at classicgamingbrothers.com. We got them all these aliases. In any case, put in the email and send us something cool. I mean, send us some, kind words if you have them, or maybe some critiques. Let's say I was too loud in this episode, or Seth was too loud, or maybe you really love the Bureau and you want to argue with Seth about why the mouths moving weirdly is integral to the story of the Bureau. Or maybe you really love the Harry Potter games and you take them very seriously and they are canon to your Harry Potter world. In any case, let us know. We're always glad to hear it. And maybe if you have a game out there that, you played and you're like, hey, Zach or Seth, have you played this game? It absolutely is terrible. We'll take a look at it. Or you're like, hey, I loved it, but everyone said it was awful. We'll take a look at it. Maybe it'll be in is it really that bad segment. So that's one way to contact us. You can also do so via our website. Go to classicgamingbrothers.com, go to the contact page. There's a contact form, and you can fill that out, and it will go right to our Gmail. That's where it goes. You can also go to our different social media accounts. You go to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. In that order, Facebook, classicgamingbrothers.com, Twitter, CG Brother Pod, and Instagram, classicgamingbrothers.com. I switched it up a bit. Sometimes I'll put Twitter at the end because I like to make myself feel sad about how I messed that up. Yeah, so you can go to any of those. You can reach out to us there, tweet at us, send us a Facebook message, like us on Instagram, follow us on Instagram. All those methods are ways that you can get in touch with us. Most likely Seth will respond to you. Sometimes I will respond to you. Depends. We'll see how I'm feeling that day. Maybe I won't respond to you.
Most of the times it's Seth responding.
Yeah, it's almost 99% of the time it's Seth, unless it's on Twitter. Most of the time, then it's me. So yeah, those are the ways to reach out to us. If you want to, what did I say? If you want to listen to us, then you can listen to us on any of your favorite podcasting apps. We're on all of them. Pretty much every podcasting app that's out there, we're on it. If for some reason there's a podcasting app out there that you want to listen to us on, but we're not on it, let us know. We'll try our hardest to get on it just for you. Also, if you want to check us out on YouTube, we have a bunch of our episodes uploaded to YouTube. We also have an archive of our Twitch streams that we do. We stream very irregularly at twitch.tv/Classic Gaming Brothers. Also, twitch.tv/VS Classic. Whoa, that's a mouthful. Twitch.tv/VS Classic Gaming Brothers. That's my view when I occasionally stream alongside Seth when we're doing streams. I haven't done it recently. My internet's not been great. If you want to support us, we appreciate it. You don't have to, but we really want you to. Tell 3 friends. If you really like this podcast, tell 3 friends, no more, no less. Because if it's something you like, you tell 3 friends. If it's something you hate, you tell more. And that is what people did with the Bureau. And that's why we know about the Bureau, is because people told more than 3 friends. It was terrible. It was a whole rampant people telling people about the Bureau. It was everyone was telling each other. So yeah, tell 3 friends. Also, you can like us on all those social media pages I previously mentioned. Another great way to support us is to email us. We really want to hear that feedback, and that's a great way to support us, is to get in touch with us. You can also buy our merch that we have. We say that you can. You don't have to, but if you want to wear our face on your shirt or wear our face on your mug, then guess what? That sounds like they're wearing our face on their face if they're wearing it on their mug. But in any case, all of our merch is available on our website. And yeah, that's it, right? That's it. I think that's it. I can't think of anything else that I need to say. Seth, can you think of one thing?
Don't play games like my brother.
And don't play games like my brother. I've been Zach.
And I've been Seth.
And we've been the Classic Gaming Brothers.
That's right.
Spice!
Farce!
I'm escaping to the one place that hasn't been corrupted by capitalism. Space!